Today we're here with Dave Storm. I'm a graduate of Stras High School, graduating there in 1972, and I was coached by the great Monty Noren. Yes, I participated both in baseball and in basketball. And again there I was coached by Ken Canote, the great baseball coach, and again Monty Noren, the basketball coach. I attended Lakeland College and graduated from there, then attended Eastern Illinois and graduated from there, and then later got my master's in business admin from SIU Edwardsville. Yes, it's kind of a bittersweet answer because in 2006, Joe Griesbaum, who was the announcer at St. Anthony basketball, passed away suddenly. So that summer, Mike Haney was the athletic director at St. Anthony's and just approached me to see if I would be interested in running the clock. I told him I would try it for a game or two, and so starting in 2006, I started running the clock and doing the announcing. And here I am 16 years later, still doing it.
Favorite part or parts to your job?
Well, I think there are several. Over the years, you develop a camaraderie with the officials, the ones that you see routinely. It's always good to see them every year. Even the coaches, and as we talk about those, Phil down in Florida, some of those are just always good to see when they come to the golf gym. Or Enlow Center now. But then again, working next to the great Bill Ferry, that's probably one of the greater things, but it's just, and also getting with the crowd and watching the crowd support the Bulldogs.
Favorite memory or memories or games that you remember?
I think probably not one game stands out in my mind, but I think it's always the Effingham St. Anthony game and the Thanksgiving tournament is always kind of the start of the season, and it's always a good one to look forward to. And of course, anytime the T-Town and St. Anthony play, it's always a good one. I think probably the only one game that I have a probably negative thing is it was a T-Town St. Anthony game, and Doug Smith was sitting next to me keeping a book for T-Town. We were getting down to the final seconds, and we'd been having trouble with the clock, starting and stopping, not with me doing it, but with the handle or the control. And they came down and I hit the button to start the clock and it didn't start. Clicked it off, clicked it back on, it didn't start. And Doug's going, "Dave, your clock didn't start." And of course, by that time, I had 20,000 T-Town fans behind me telling me the clock. And so, I mean, that was a good one that I remember mostly because that's probably one of the few times I really got yelled at. I think the toughest obstacle is, number one, I mean, my main focus is you can always change the score, but it's very hard to change the time. So it's to focus on the time to make sure it's correct, that you start and stop. And probably most the obstacle is at the end of tight games is keeping track of a lot of substitutions, starting and stopping. But when the crowd's really in an uproar and you're trying to listen for the official's whistle, you know, you focus on that, you focus on the arm going up and trying to make sure you give them the optimum time. So I think it's just the biggest obstacle of that part.
The pack stands on both sides, T-Town St. Anthony on a Friday night. Everybody wants to come to that game.
Right, and I always look at my job on that is to acknowledge both teams. I don't want to be biased towards the Bulldogs, but to acknowledge both teams because, there are parents from the opposing team there to watch the game and they came to support their players as well. So as I do it, I try to make sure I do a good introduction and welcome the other team, make sure I get their names right. I always check with the other scorekeeper to make sure the starters, I have their names correct. Nothing wrong than a mad mother who, when you mispronounce her son's name, but try to make sure that it's all correct. And again, give them the courtesy of coming. They came to the gym and to welcome them. And at the same side on the Bulldog, then let's get them fired up too as far as the fans and get them so they're both ready to go. And my last comment normally is, let's have a good game. They've just started doing that in the last year or two again. We're turning down the lights with the spotlight and the band playing really loud. I'm glad they tell us because Kim Mills, who's always on my right, gets her phone with the light on so that I can see my starters. And I can, as I do it, and the crowd is going, the lights are going, and I'm trying to do the introduction. I have no idea if they can hear me, if they can hear me, but I'm just talking as loud as I can. And I always like to try to enunciate a little bit, try to get some enthusiasm in there, and you can tell with the crowd, and I hope the kids love it when I do that, but it just gets them fired up. Okay, here we are. We've waited all day, all week for this game, and now it's ready to start. Have to go back to the people that formed their life and be my parents, and always hard work. My father was one that could talk to anybody. I hope to feel that I take a lot like him, that I can talk about anybody. I always said, if you give me a mic in my hand, I'll talk. But the thing with my parents, especially my father, it was military, and my older brother was military. And so with that, I always try to dedicate something in my mind. That's why I take such an emphasis on the national anthem, the presenting of the colors, the color guard that's out there, and really making an emphasis on, we really need to respect and admire those people, men and women who did provide service, and acknowledge that before we get started. I know for the time that we've struggled at the beginning to get everyone to keep silent at the end of the national anthem till the color guard has exited the floor. Bill Ferry, my cohort on my left, normally is, Dave, you did a good job, or there's always somebody that tries to clap. But I think it's that feeling of the patriotism, but it comes from my parents, and I would think they are my role model. That was an exciting year. They were a good team to watch. They won several of their last games by, just by squeaking by, but it made it a fun trip to Peoria. We were up there, by not doing the book like Bill does. I was in the stands, but it was just exciting to watch, and the pressure building up, and the way they were coached by Coach Rinker is incredible. My grandsons were there, but it was just watching the crowd, watching the people, and then getting back here to Effingham, knowing that they were going to come into the KC Hall and be welcomed back. It was just intense. But they were a good team that they came together and played hard and played well together. I do have some information from them as far as where they were at. This is kind of my Bulldog wall. Going back to the early 2000s when both my boys played for St. Anthony, but it just was given that the kids just deserved it. And I tell you what, I was not happier than when they won that, not only for the boys, but also for the entire coaching staff, the school administration, and the school itself.
Describe your relationship you have with all of our local officials.
You develop a good camaraderie with them, but also I think a lot of it becomes a trust factor. The officials rely on us at the scorer's bench to keep the score right, to make sure the books are correct, to make sure the clock, a lot of them utilize the scoreboard to when the bonus is going to be and what the time is. But there's officials over the years that when you see them walk out, it's like, okay, this is going to be a good game. Jim Wagner, Jim Fisher, the Lighty Boys, Carl Repke. I mean, there's just a lot of them. And then we get to the younger, what I call the younger ones. You got Josh Stoffett and Bobby Schlechte, and unfortunately Dana Anderson, I think, is retired from doing it as well. But these are ones, and I give those guys a lot of credit. They're out there, and in the eye, we always try to work well with them. We keep them informed. They try to work with us as well, and just make sure that the game's a well-run game. It always makes me feel well whenever they come up and say, you guys are one of the best benches to work with. And that makes us feel good that, we're keeping them informed. We're, keeping everything on track where it needs to be, and that they feel that they can trust with what we're doing.
Does your family come to the games to support you?
Yes, my wife, Debbie, pretty well comes to all the games. Because she has to sit by herself, but she has a group of friends, other couples that she sits with, at one time George Meddy had an extra seat in the front row, and he said, well, Debbie's always welcome to sit with him as well. But they do come. Sometimes she doesn't come quite as early as I do, because I try to get there half an hour earlier to make sure the equipment's all set up and everything's ready to go. But then my eldest grandson has now become 6th grade, a ball boy, so my son and his family are starting to attend those games. And then my youngest son has got a little girl that's, I think, just turned 5, but likes to come to the game, especially though to watch more of the dance side of it than the basketball side of it. But so they're not there always, but yeah, my wife always attends. I would like to think that I would do it as long as I can. I would have never figured that I would have done it for 16 years, but I will tell you that I truly enjoy doing it. I look forward to it each year. As I got grandsons that are starting to get older, I would like to think that I would be able to do it until they start high school. I'm not sure that I could run the clock and do the scoreboard if I had a grandson playing. When I say that, I smile just briefly. Dave McDivitt used to help out and do the clock for the girls' game. And I think the girls were playing in maybe a regional or something, and I was in the stands, and Dave was running the clock. And he says, I just can't do it with my daughter playing at the time. And Emily, I think, was playing. And I understand that. I mean, you get focused on watching your child or whatever. And that, so yeah, I walked across and I took over and ran the clock for the girls' game. But I would like to think that I could continue to do it for several more years. Yes, my current occupation is working at Johnson Funeral Home. I was in hospital health care for about 40 years, and then about 4 years ago joined the staff at Johnson Funeral Home just as an attendant. But I find that job is very rewarding at a time of need and where compassion is needed. I do know a lot of people in town and can talk to them, but welcome them into the funeral home. I assist, with visitations and funerals and so forth, but that's where I'm at. But I think it's hopefully the compassion that I learned in working in hospital healthcare rolls over into that current position where people feel comfortable when they see someone they know.
Something about you that not a lot of people know.
This one I had to think about, but I think it's the fact that I'm a twin. I don't know that too many people know that I have a twin brother, but really, in fact, I have 2 twin brothers and a twin sister. There are 2 sets of twins in our family, so I just look at the younger set part of us too, so 2 twin brothers and a twin sister. Thank you. I've enjoyed doing this. I enjoyed sharing the information. We all realize, though, that Greg Sapp is the voice of all basketball in Effingham County and surrounding counties, but it's my pleasure to help announce and do the work at St. Anthony.